YouTube, this is Steve from Average Joe's Fantasy Football, and we are on week 3 of the NFL season, and we are talking wide receiver position. Again, this is your start and sit video to help you guys out with your wide receiver position. And of course, this is full PPR and half PPR. If you have any other format, hit me up in the comments down below. I'd love to help you guys out. We'll jump right into this. Week 3 is here. We got a Thursday night game, which is tonight. We, of course, have 2 Monday night games. Keep an eye on that. And, of course, lots of injuries that have happened this past week. So, week 3 is going to be an interesting one. So, I'd love to help you guys out. Now, these are your obvious starts at the wide receiver position. Continuously changes every single week. Obviously, you got Cooper Kupp that's been out. You got Deebo Samuel, A.J. Brown. I mean, the list is continuing to go on. And everybody that you drafted probably in the first or second round so far this season is out. So, with that said, these are your obvious starts at the wide receiver position. Now, the first guy I want to mention as a good start is going to be Rashee Rice versus the Falcons. I put Rashee Rice here only because based off of stats, the Falcons are actually the best against wide receivers in the fantasy world. Last week, though, they did give up Devontae Smith 20 points. And Rice has been a target hog in the Kansas City offense. And I do think he's going to have, obviously, continued success to the Falcons. I like the Falcons as far as what they were able to do. And of course, I love them for what they did to the Eagles. But one thing, they do have a really good cornerback in AJ Terrell. So I do think that weighs a little bit in this decision. But I think realistically, Rashee Rice getting sat will be tough to do. And again, with all the injuries out there, I think Rashee Rice is a great start. Another really good start this week is going to be Chris Olave versus the Eagles. I know, crazy to hear me say that, right? I've not been a fan of Chris Olave. He's been very, very average. But this is the one where I think he's going to have a really good game. And you could also put Rashid Shaheed in here as well if you guys want to. But I like Chris Olave this week. The Eagles are the worst against the wide receiver in fantasy so far this season. They're allowing 47 points combined per game, and they've given up 4 touchdowns in 2 games already. Olave had a decent game against Dallas with 12 points, but again, nothing amazing. But I think this is going to be the game that's going to help him perform even better and have some success and kind of give you that value that you spent on him in your fantasy draft in probably the second round. Another receiver I really like this week is going to be Marvin Harrison Jr. versus the Lions. This man was somebody that people were talking about trading away. He's not good. Kyler Murray's not going to throw to him. And then, bam, 1 week later, everything's changed. And now he's one of the hottest receivers in the game. Again, overreaction week 1 is always there, and it's always exciting to watch, especially when you're looking at it as an analyst. But I like this matchup. This should be a fun game offensively between the two, and obviously Harrison Jr. should have his continued success for where week 2 he just went off and had monster numbers in the first half. Lions are allowing the wide receiver 1 over 100 yards per game, 28 points per game, and a touchdown. Like, they are just allowing these receivers to have success. And Lions should keep this offense going where they're able, obviously, again, going back and forth. It's going to be a nice little, boxing match in this one, which allows Cardinals to keep their passing attack going instead of like last week where they were just blowing it away. So I really like Marvin Harrison Jr. this week. And the last receiver I'm going to mention is going to be Garrett Wilson versus the Patriots. This is a game I believe Garrett Wilson just shows up in why he was the second round pick for most people in fantasy. Patriots gave up 12 points the first week to Jamar Chase, who was obviously out the offseason, and still were able to get put some double digits. Then they went against Seattle. And I was kind of surprised. I thought Seattle was not going to do as well as they did, and the Patriots allowed Metcalf and JSN to have over 100 yards each, 24 points each in fantasy, and Garrett has a great opportunity to have some success this week. Now, he's only averaging 11 points a game, which is really tough to swallow, especially when you probably drafted him, in the early second round. But I think this is going to be a matchup that's going to help you turn around, feel better about yourself, and I think have an amazing week. Now, the first wide receiver I'm going to mention as it sit this week is going to be Mike Evans versus the Broncos. Crazy to say, but this is a tough one for Mike Evans. He'll be covered by Patrick Surtain most of the game, and the Broncos have done a really good job against the wide receiver 1 for the team. They're only allowing 5 points in fantasy to these wide receiver 1s. Surtain is that good of a cornerback. Evans didn't have a great game last week as well where he struggled, and he's going to have some of that similar success. Now, I do think Chris Godwin is a must start. I think he should be in your lineup, and I put him as an obvious start. But Mike Evans is one receiver I'm kind of hesitant to put in. I know he's a big name. You're probably going to start him, but I would not be surprised if he doesn't even hit double digits. Another receiver I don't like this week is going to be George Pickens versus the Chargers. Look, Chargers are number 1 in defense so far this season. They've only allowed an average of 8 points a game to the wide receiver 1. And so far, Pickens have not really gotten a great connection between him and Justin Fields. Fields should be the quarterback again this week, but Pickens is only averaging 9 points a game, and with Fields still adjusting to the offensive line still struggling. They want to focus on the run. Pickens will have another week where he's going to be below double digits. So again, I'm not putting him on my lineup. I don't care when you drafted him. He's got to sit on the bench. Another receiver I'm not crazy about this week is going to be Brian Thomas Jr. versus the Bills. Bills have a big surprise for me. This have been a really big surprise. Defensively, I thought they were not going to play well. I thought they were going to regress, but they've actually done a really good job dealing with, even with the injuries they've got going on. They've only allowed an average of 8 points a game to the wide receiver 1 so far. And again, they're just having a really good job. One thing I will say, and this is where I think they've done a really good job against wide receivers, is they're playing a lot of press, and their zone is really, really good. I mean, they held Marvin Harrison Jr. to 1 point. They held Tyreek to 6 points. And I know that was a little different with Tua being out, and they were kind of blown away. But defensively, I got to give credit to the Bills. I think they did a really good job. And right now, Brian Thomas Jr., I think, is the wide receiver 1 for the Jaguars, and I'm sitting him this week. And the last receiver I'm going to sit this week is going to be Terry McLaurin versus the Bengals. Until Jaden Daniels shows me more in the passing portion of his game, McLaurin shouldn't be in your lineup at all, even in the flex. On top of that, the Bengals have actually held receivers to only 20 points combined a game. And I'd love to see the Bengals, I really do think the Bengals are going to be a team that I think will obviously blow out the Commanders this week. I think the Bengals are on a mission. Now, that might benefit and give McLaurin some targets, because if the Bengals obviously up big, Jaden Daniels is going to have to throw. So maybe there's some saving grace in that one. But this is a really tough matchup. I think even with a blowout, I just don't think there's enough opportunities for McLaurin to have some success. So I'm going to sit him this week. I don't feel really comfortable. Now, as far as sleepers go, I've got Khalil Shakir versus the Jaguars. I like this matchup for him a lot, and the Jaguars have been really struggling, and he's kind of become the number 1 receiver for, Josh Allen right now. I mean, you have Keon Coleman, which I'm a big fan of, and I'm not giving up on him, but he saw 0 targets last week. And the other sleeper I like is Demarcus Robinson for the going against the 49ers. Demarcus Robinson could be the wide receiver 1 for Matt Stafford and the Rams. We'll see how things play out. But I think that's where it's going to end up happening, and I like this matchup for him against the 49ers because they actually have been struggling, and this is a game I think that Matthew Stafford is going to have to throw a lot, and I think he's going to see just enough targets to have some success. So those are my week 3 start sits and sleepers for the wide receiver position. Again, if you haven't, hit me up in the comments down below. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. Hit that like button. Check out my other start and sit videos, and I'll check you guys out next time.